Sit here.
What does Veterans Day mean to you?
To me, Veterans Day is very important. It's a day to really honor their service and sacrifice.
When everyone comes together and pays tribute, dedicating the time to acknowledge
what they've done, what they've brought, and what they've given to our way of life.
This wanting to be able to give back to them because of what they've been able to provide and give to me.
Whether it was a 4-year stint, whether it was a 35-year stint.
Veterans Day honors those who served.
I feel proud to be a part of those folks that raised their hands to go and fight for our nation.
This Veterans Day,
This Veterans Day,
I am honoring
I'm honoring
I am honoring
my gang from Air Force Recruiting Service.
Brandon J. Van Paris,
Thomas Dudley,
Cynthia Underwood.
Jorge Fernandez,
Paul V. Hederoff.
my father.
my mother, my 3 cousins, and all of my coworkers who have served.
It really is something that is very near and dear to my heart.
We're pleased to welcome you to the AUSA Noon Report, our virtual series featuring senior Army leaders providing important updates on key defense topics. Our host today is AUSA's Vice President for NCO and Soldier Programs and the 15th Sergeant Major of the Army, Dan Dailey.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Association of United States Army's Noon Report. We're very glad you've joined us, and we appreciate your continued support for our programs and events. I'd like to thank our sponsor, USAA, for their support of this edition of the Noon Report. USAA has been a national partner since 1998. We thank USAA for their tremendous support to the Army and to the Association of the United States Army. Today, we welcome back to the Noon Report our special guest, Command Sergeant Major John F. Sampa. Command Sergeant Major Sampa was appointed as the Command Sergeant Major of the Army National Guard on 15 February 2018. Command Sergeant Major Sampa has also been employed with the Texas Department of Public Safety in the Highway Patrol Division for 27 years in concurrence with his military service. He joined the United States Army in April of 1987 and has served the Army National Guard and the United States Army for more than 34 years. He completed basic training as a tank armored crewman at Fort Knox. Command Sergeant Major Sampa was promoted to the rank of Sergeant Major on 8 April 2009. And prior to becoming the Command Sergeant Major of the Army National Guard, Command Sergeant Major Sampa served as the Senior Enlisted Leader for the Texas Military Department from March 2017 to February 2018. For more details on his many accomplishments and his decorations, you can access Command Sergeant Major Sampa's full bio in the handout tab in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. If you have questions for Command Sergeant Major Sampa today, please use the Q&A tab and post your questions in the box at the lower right-hand side of the screen. We're going to do our best to get to as many questions as we have time for today, but I want you to start thinking about what you want to ask Command Sergeant Major Sampa as we welcome him back to the show. Sergeant Major Sampa, welcome back to the Noon Report.
Hey, it's a great day to be here, and thanks for having me. First of all, it's a great opportunity for myself to be here today and have a great conversation with you and the AUSA folks here. So thanks for having me.
Well, we appreciate you being here, Sergeant Major. We know you're tremendously busy. And as the whole Guard is busy, we're going to talk about that today because I know that you want to talk about how much the Guard's been doing for the last couple of years. But just want to say up front, thank you and happy Veterans Day. A little early. It's tomorrow, but to you and the entire National Guard.
Well, and the same goes to you as well. Happy Veterans Day, you SMA, for all the things you've brought to the Army and your service, many years of service to the Army as well, too. And all the other veterans out there, happy Veterans Day to you as well, because that's how we are here. That's why we're here today, our freedoms and democracy, because of those who served in the past. And so it's a great honor for me to be here today, right before Veterans Day. So it's a real honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. So, Sergeant Major, it seemed the Army National Guard was everywhere in 2020, and I know you've remained just as busy in 2021 as well. Could you provide our audience today an overview of how that affected the Guard over the past 18 months?
Yeah, so, again, the last 18 months, we've been very busy. So, yeah, as you said, we started out in 2020, beginning with the COVID response, and that moved into the civil unrest response. And then in June of 2020, if you recall, we had 100,000 Guardsmen mobilized in June of 2020. And what's unique about that is that we hadn't seen that mobilization of soldiers since World War II. And then so we moved on into the year 20, responding to hurricanes in Louisiana, wildfires in California, and other homeland responses. And then at the beginning of this year, no noticed, we had 26,000 Guardsmen from every state, 50 states and the 3 territories, to come assist our Guardsmen here in Washington, D.C. for the presidential inauguration. 26,000. In 10 days, we mobilized here in DC. So those soldiers came here, did their job professionally in the right way, sent them back to their home station, their places, back to their home of record. But the unique thing about that is that when they were here, I went down to visit with the soldiers at the Capitol, at the mall, at the monuments and stuff. And I always asked them, where were you when you got the call? And it was a typical citizen soldier response. So I made sure I was at the dentist's office, I was at the gym, I was at home, I was at work. They were everywhere. And so they got the call and no notice, dropped everything they were doing. Just dropped everything they were doing to come to DC for the response mission here and did it professionally. And so we thank those soldiers and airmen who came in the Guard, as well as their families and their employers, because it takes all 3 of those components to working together for all of us to do our job. And so here today, as I speak to you today, we have over 53,000 plus Guardsmen deployed all over the world. In every combatant command around the world, there's a Guardsman somewhere. But 12,000 plus of them are still on COVID response. And so, we have the National Guard motto is always ready, always there. And as you see today, with the things that's going on in the operational piece of the Army, the Guard is still very busy here today. So we thank everybody for your support, because again, we couldn't do it without the families and the employers working all together in the communities.
Absolutely. So, it is incredible. What our nation's been through collectively over the last 18 months to 2 years, the Guard has always been there and always been ready. And we'd still be in the midst of the terrible days. And we are still in the days of this pandemic, but the terrible days of pandemic had not been for the great help of the Army.
Yeah, but the unique thing is our communities trust the Guard. And they feel secure when the Guard responds because they trust, they know the capabilities that the Guard brings to their communities. And that's what a lot of Guardsmen, the reason why they join is to serve their communities. And so we'll be here. We've been here for a long time. We'll continue to be here for another long period.
Not going anywhere soon.
Not going anywhere soon. That's right. Yes.
I'd like to also remind our listeners, we did a special on the Army National Guard and Soldier Today's podcast series in the Army Matters podcast. We went out to the States and let them talk about the great things that their soldiers were doing in response to the great need by the American public. And not only that, but like you mentioned, not just what they do for their states, but also what they do for the country as part of the federal force when they get activated.
That's correct. Yep.
Incredible, John. Incredible. So I understand some Army National Guard units will be realigned under a new thing called the Army National Guard's Divisional Alignment for Training. Now, we've heard a little bit about this, but what's the intent of this alignment and what would it look like in the Army National Guard, Sergeant?
Sure. So yeah, this is something very new to the Army National Guard. And as you all know, there's 18 divisions in the entire Army, and 8 of those division headquarters reside in the Army National Guard. But previously, before the division alignment training, there was not really any brigade or infantry, or not infantry, but any battalion that was officially aligned to the division itself. So with the division alignment of training, it brings these alignment of brigades and battalions underneath a specific division. And so as the Army has moved back to a division-centric organization in order to put decisive actions on the battlefield, the Army National Guard have to follow suit because we are the Operation Reserve, the combat reserve for the Army itself. So when the Army changes, the Army Guard has to change as well too. And so now when the Army wants to mobilize 18 divisions, the Guard now has 18 capable divisions to mobilize in large-scale combat operation, multi-domain joint operation, whatever the Army requires us to do, the Guard will be there, modernized, just as the Army has been modernized, our doctrine, our equipment, and everything. So this whole division alignment training just more or less codifies our units to train together, not only because of wartime, but preparing for our operation, whatever that is. And it also provides other opportunities for leaders in our organization because, like I say, there was 8 divisions. Not every state has a division headquarters in their state. So now with the division alignment of training, there's leaders now have the opportunity from other states to serve at the division level. And so it brings that expertise more into our organization to have a better organization of leaders leading the Army National Guard. So it's we all excited about it, and the states and the units leadership are excited about it to see how this work out, because now we all can train together and move out together for the future of the Army and Army National Guard.
Well, I think it's a great decision. Like you said, Sergeant Major, along with the incredible domestic response that our National Guard units provide to our states out there, they also have a very incredible mission in supporting the active Army when they're called to action.
That's correct.
Yeah. Sergeant Major, whenever I get a chance, I like to highlight soldiers' accomplishments, and I know you're a big fan of it as well. The Army National Guard recently contributed to history. Again, a female Montana Army Guardsman, 11 Bravo, just graduated from a very special school, the Sniper School at Fort Benning, Georgia. Can you tell us about it, Sergeant?
Oh, most definitely. So you can see me smiling because I was actually there at the graduation this past Friday, to witness the Army's first female sniper. Not the Army first, but it just so happened that female is part of the Montana Army National Guard, and a very humble individual, but very lethal in her skills, because I wouldn't want to get in front of her with a gun. And so I asked her, I said, so how did you develop your marksmanship skills? And so she developed it as a young age because she's a hunter. And as a matter of fact, when she was leaving graduation on Friday, she was going back to Montana to go hunt this weekend.
She's got to keep them skills sharp.
That's keep it sharp. But no, she recently went through basic training, and the leadership in her basic training unit, as well as the Army Guard leadership that's there at the basic training sites, recognized her talent and offered her an opportunity to go to Sniper School at Fort Benning. And so she graduated from basic training, went back home to Montana, and then she came back to Fort Benning and trained up at the Army National Guard Warrior Training Center down there. And she trained up and entered to Sniper School and graduated this past Friday. So I'm very proud of her. The entire Army Guard is proud of her because she's a trailblazer. And she don't really see herself as a trailblazer. She just see herself as a soldier. And of course, she was getting a lot of attention, a lot of accolades because of her accomplishment. But she's like, Sergeant Major, I'm just a soldier. And everybody should get the same accolades and everything. But that's just how humble she is in doing her job. But she was on her way back to Montana to go hunting, but she's a home builder in her civilian life. And so when she's not doing the Army Guard duty, she's actually a home builder there in Montana. So again, very proud of her and her accomplishments, and look forward to her leadership. But for me and for the rest of our Guard leadership, it just shows how the opportunity that exists for everybody in our organization, not just the Army Guard, but for the entire Army. Because again, you got to remember, this was Army leadership in her basic training that saw her talent, and then the Guard leadership saw it as well too, and offered that to her. So again, we're very inclusive here in the Army National Guard for everybody, and want to provide opportunity for everybody. And here she took that opportunity, and now she's the first female sniper.
Well, that's incredible. Incredible story, Sergeant Major. And we wish her the best in her travels back to Montana, and a good hunting season back there too as well. I'm sure she'll do well. I'm sure she will do well. But it also highlights the incredible capabilities of our Guard soldiers. So thanks for sharing that story, Sergeant Major.
Yes.
Sergeant Major, I have got a lot of questions for you. You and I could ask each other questions all day long.
That's right.
Our audience wants to get involved too. So we're going to go out to our audience right now for a few questions. And ladies and gentlemen, please write in your questions. If we don't get to all of them today, I promise you, Sergeant Major Sampa will get all the questions that you write in, and I'm sure his office will respond to each one and every one of those. So first question comes from Brett M., Sergeant Major, and he says, how is the Army National Guard implementing rearm?
So how we rearm is no different than the Army itself. So when our units will be selected under the rearm model, and just like the Army is, and then we'll be regional aligned to a certain area for their capabilities. But all of that is still in the process of fleshing it out. But again, the Army Guard is focused on building readiness for our soldiers and allowing that to play out the way it needs to play out with the division alignment training and the whole rearm issue itself. So, but again, being a operational reserve for the Army, we fall right into the rearm itself. So right now the Guard is heavily in the SITCOM area, and we don't know how that's going to play out with the rearm. But again, we're dealing with the mission of today, and we'll let the rearm take forward whenever it comes about.
Excellent. Our next question from our virtual audience is from Robert H. He says, Sergeant Major Sampa, good morning, and it was great to see you in Texas, fellow Texan out there, a few days ago. My question is, in your travels and visits with the National Guard soldiers, what is their morale and attitude toward the mission they are on? Also, are there any indications that the duty is harming their civilian employment? And he says, thanks, and that's from Bob Halverson down in Texas.
Yes. So good morning there, General Halverson, Major General Retired Halverson. Great question, because again, people always wonder about the operational, our Operation 2.0 Army Guard, and how it's affecting us as Army Guard as a whole. And I just talked about how busy we were in 2020 and moving into 2021. But when I go around and talk to soldiers, they're all excited and motivated. Because one thing that has happened with this whole COVID deal is that a lot of, we got to remember, a lot of our soldiers are citizen soldiers. And so a lot of them lost their jobs, their civilian jobs. And so because of the Operation Tempo of the Army, a lot of them were able to sustain their income by coming on duty with the Guard itself.
Being mobilized.
Being mobilized, yes, for all the things that we've been mobilized for. And so, but the morale of the soldiers are awesome, because today's soldiers that's joining the Guard, they want to do something. They're excited about doing something. It's like, send me wherever I'm going. And so again, we have our mid-level, senior levels who have leadership that has additional duties, administrative stuff, and all that they have to deal with. But overall, in my going out visiting with soldiers, because I do it all the time, is that the morale is high. Soldiers wants to do something, wants to continue to serve their communities and state, but also want to serve on a national level as well too, and get that experience, because they don't want to sit still. They want to move out.
Absolutely. Sergeant Major, I'd like to stay on the subject though and talk a little bit about General Halverson's comment about how that affects their civilian employment back at their state. I've talked to a lot of Guard soldiers, and op-tempo does have an effect on those things. What message would you tell our civilian employers out there about our Guard soldiers and the service they're doing for their country and for their state as a result of being called to duty?
That's correct. So, for me, like you said, I've been with the Texas Highway Patrol for 27 years now, and they've been great partners for myself. But the reason why they've been great partners, because I've communicated with them on a continuing basis of what was required of me, every position I've been in, and they're very supportive of that. And so what I found out is that we just need to keep that communication going, and employers understand the sacrifices that their employer is making on a bigger picture of things. And I always say, the great men and women of World War I, World War II, and all the other wars after that made great sacrifices that they didn't see was going to come to life today. And so today, our soldiers in the Army National Guard are making great sacrifices for our communities today, in our nation today, that they may not see either. And so it takes all of us working together to make those sacrifices, to include the employers and the families. And so I just ask employers that, if you're curious about, what your employees doing in the Guard, come out to the units, ask a soldier more about what he or she is doing. They got plenty of pictures. They're just not sharing them with you in some aspects, because they don't think of it as a job. That's their service. They're not doing it for any limelight or anything like that. So that's why they're really not sharing the information. But I ask that you pull that out of them, because again, the selfless service that they are providing to their communities, their state, their nation, in order for us to have the freedoms and the things we have here in America today. And so again, if your employer curious about what your soldier is doing, ask them. But again, it is a great stress on a lot of these employers, because some folks always say it's small companies that sacrifice. Well, large companies sacrifice as well too. Yeah. So we all have those issues, and we just have to manage correctly through communication, because a lot of employers have policies to protect the soldier itself. We just find that sometimes it's the first line leader that really don't understand what the sacrifices the soldier is doing. So again, I ask that the employer get engaged with the soldier.
Well, thanks for explaining that.
And vice versa. The soldier get engaged with the employer, let them know what he or she is doing as well.
That's right. Yeah, communication both ways, I think. Is
Communication both ways, yes.
John, let's go back out from Kenneth H. What is the status, great question, you know this was going to come up, of the Army National Guard recruiting? And are Army National Guard recruiters struggling to get access to high school seniors and future soldiers?
Well, it's you would say it's a struggle, but last year, the Army National Guard met its end strength, and schools were closed in 2020. And so just like I said earlier today, that we, the Guard, adapt to changes. That's what makes us the most powerful service military force, because we can adapt to change, we adjust. And so our recruiters have adjusted to how to recruit through technology, word of mouth, and so it's been great that we haven't seen a real effect on our recruiting through the pandemic. We have a bunch of folks who stayed in the Guard as well, but we also have folks who actually came into the Guard as well. We just talked about one recent one, the female Montana Guardsman, recently just graduated from basic training. And so, but what really is driving our recruiting that hasn't changed is the benefits that we provide to our soldiers when they join the Army National Guard. You know, each state may have some educational benefits they're providing. The Tri-Care Reserve Select, the medical benefits that we provide to our soldiers, because everybody wants health care, and you could be in the Guard and not have a job and still have opportunity to have great health care just by serving in the Guard itself. So again, our recruits have adjusted, but we haven't seen a decline in recruiting as of now.
Outstanding. Yeah. So October 1 mission complete, already head down the 22 mission right now, right?
Head down 22 missions, that's correct. Yeah. That's great. But I really believe that, when you have a great organization, people come.
It's going to attract good people.
It's going to attract good people. And I believe that's what's happening with Army National Guard, because they've seen in the last 18 months what our Guard have done for our nation and our country as a whole, worldwide. And I believe they want to be part of that.
Yeah.
And so we've deemed, deemed these new soldiers as the next generation of soldiers since World War II, because they're here to make a change through this times that, unique times that we have here in America and around the world itself.
And doing incredible things and demonstrating incredible resiliency throughout the process too.
That is correct.
I think there's some misconception, and we get the question all the time of how soldiers are today versus in the past. And I'll tell you, there's many indications that say they're a lot better today than they were in the past.
They're very, very different, but unique as well, and bring different type of skill sets to meet the modern day challenges. Yeah. So as we always say, the Army keeps rolling along.
Different, but still awesome.
Still awesome. Yes.
Still awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back out, Sergeant Major. Lots of questions coming in, and thank you to our viewers today. Again, keep those questions coming, because we promise you, if we don't get to all of them, we'll get them all to Sergeant Major Sampa. Next one is from Maxine C. What concrete steps has the Army National Guard taken to implement the Army People Strategy? Another very good question, Sergeant Major.
So, the Army is part of the People First Initiative. The Army National Guard is part of the Army's People First Initiative. And so we've taken steps to ensure that we acknowledge the people that serve in our organization, not only the soldier itself, but the families as well too, and understand the dynamics that it takes to serve in the Army National Guard. And so with that in mind, we're working with our soldiers to ensure that they have the tools and the training they need to not only serve in our organization, but also have the time committed to take care of things with their families and with their employers as well too, because we understand the great sacrifice they're making as well to serving this organization. So, putting people first, as the Chief of Staff of the Army always say, that's the same thing that we're doing here in the Army National Guard, putting people first to understand, because without people, we have no organization.
Absolutely.
And so we have to, in other words, take that into account.
And I think it's people have to understand too that it's not the leadership's fault that they can't implement something the active Army is doing, because there's laws that delineate what you can and cannot do, right? So they're governed under different rules and regulations too.
That's correct. So, what people, I think a lot of folks sometimes really don't miss is that we're one Army National Guard, but under that one National Guard is really 54
States,
different
territories.
Army National Guard, because each state is different. And so what may work in the Army, it may not work in the Army National Guard, because we're dealing with 50 states, 3 territories, and District of Columbia. So one size don't always fit all.
That's right.
And so each state is really implementing what they need to for their particular state in order to look at the people first, their strategies to keep their organization strong and healthy as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Sergeant Major. But great question from the audience. Our next question is from Crystal B. She says, good day, Sergeant Major Sampa. Currently, officers conduct an officer talent management board. Is there anything coming up for enlisted talent management for the National Guard?
Well, of course, we implemented the IPSA. IPSA was initiated in the Guard first, because they say if it can be initiated in the Guard, it can be initiated everywhere else, right? And so with IPSA, the whole purpose, one of the purposes of IPSA is really to identify the talent the different talents of what soldiers bring to the force itself. So utilizing IPSA is one means of for identifying that talent in the soldiers itself. But each state have their own way of identifying the talent for the organization through their own promotion board process. And so I would say that each senior leader, enlisted leader for that state will, utilize their promotion process to identify that talent, with other programs like IPSA to identify that talent as well to do that. So again, there's no one talent in program that the Army Guard is all left to the state itself, how they initiate that talent management.
Thanks, Sergeant Major. Thanks for the explanation. The next question, Sergeant Major, is from Max B. Sergeant Major Sampa, in your view, and this is another outstanding question, what is the biggest challenge or obstacle to soldier success in the Army National Guard?
The biggest challenge is really working with your employer and working with your family, that communication we just talked to, because again, without those 3 working all together, it is a challenge. And I always use the analogies that, because see for myself right now, the soldiers are always holding 2 things in their hands. So for myself, I'm holding my military in one hand, and I got my family in the other hand. And what's in the air is my civilian employer. And so it has to be a complete balance of all 3, because if you hold on to 2 of them too long, one is going to fall. And so if you're holding on to the military and you hold on to your employer too long, then there's less time you're spending with the family, and now the family's not getting the attention they need. Yeah. So the biggest challenge is trying to balance all 3 of those things. And it's a challenge to do that. But all I can tell you that has worked for me is that I kept everybody informed. I kept my family informed of what I was doing and made them part of my being a soldier in the Army National Guard. Invited them to different functions and things that we've had. Employers, invited them, let them know what was going on as well too, so that we can keep that communication, that balance correctly. And then again, having great leaders understand the dynamics of the other 2, so they can also work with me as well, trying to create that balance for employment and family. So it goes back to what we said before about people first, the people strategy initiative, understanding the dynamics of what our soldiers going through and trying to work with them to keep that balance flow.
Excellent advice, Sergeant Major. Absolutely sound advice. Sergeant Major, I'm going back out, and I noticed that our next question is from Carter H., which I would guess that is General Carter Ham.
Okay, all right.
The immediate past president and
That's
CEO
correct. Hey,
of AUSA.
glad to have him on the board.
Of course,
I feel very honored, really.
And
Yeah.
he's got a very hard question. So when he says, Sergeant Major Sampa, how is recruiting and selection for the Army National Guard SFAB coming along? And again, he also sends his thanks for joining me today and thanks you for all you have done, for soldiers and their families, for so many years of service in the Guard and as a high rate patrol officer. So
Yeah.
thanks, General Ham. But over to you, Sergeant
So
Major.
so this past summer, I went out to the Joint Readiness Training Center there in Fort Polk because our 54 SFAB was out there training, and the motivation of those soldiers was just outstanding. And what I found out is that I asked them, "Why did you join the SFAB?" Because we kind of spread out over the states, and they said, "Well, hey, it gave me a different opportunity to do something different." Hone in their skills and then go back out to their units with that skill level that they obtain in the SFAB itself. Because we all know the SFAB is not where a soldier can sit. They're there for a short period of time to do their mission, and they move back out to their units. So with the folks that's currently in the SFAB now, through my experience with them this past summer at JRTC, and I visit a couple of them up in Indiana doing their weekend training. The motivation is there, and when that motivation has gotten out to others, there's more folks that want to join the SFAB. So I feel like the future for the SFAB and the Guard is going to be great because people see the worth of it and their experience they're getting out of it, and then they're also doing something different that they wouldn't have obtained if they stayed in a regular infantry unit or soft unit or something like that. So they would have. So they're doing something different.
Just to reinforce too, Sergeant Major, is when we first stood up the SFABs, they were new, right? So people didn't know about them. They were unsure at first, and initially recruiting people because we wanted them to be volunteers, right? We want people to be in that organization. Kind of slow, but once people got in there and they realized the incredible mission and capability they bring to the Army, we had no problem filling out the rest of them.
That's correct.
So if you're interested in the SFAB and you want to be part of an incredible mission, get out there and get to know more about it.
That's correct. Yep. And so there's a balance between the SFAB and the infantry units because one is losing out from the other, but again, overall, it's great for our organization.
Absolutely, it's not a competition. It's all about doing the right thing for the Guard, right?
That's correct.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank our audience. Your questions have been incredible, and we got plenty of them. Don't hesitate to keep writing them in. We are not going to have time to read them all today, but I promise you, Sergeant Major will get them all. Out to our next question from Taka W. Says, Sergeant Major Sampa, good morning. This is Sergeant First Class Taka Britt. Very, very brave of them to put their name out there. Britt Wilson.
Good morning.
From Alabama.
Alabama.
Thank you and former SMA Dailey for your constant leadership and support. My question is, are there any final decisions made to the implementation, this was coming, Sergeant Major, of ACFT? And is there any valuable results yet from the research regarding height and weight standards and screening?
Okay. Well, first of all, good morning to you. Great question. But before I actually dive into your question, I don't know which team she's pulling for, whether it's Alabama or it's Auburn. But I had a son graduate from Texas A&M, and I'll just leave it at that.
You gonna make a prediction though, Sergeant Major?
We already made that prediction. A&M, they came, they know exactly what happened. But again, as far as the Army Combat Fitness Test, that test should be finalized here pretty soon. I've been in recent conversations with SMA and some of the other senior leaders, enlisted leaders in the Army itself, talking about the ACFT. ACFT is here to stay, I would predict. As far as training for the ACFT, I just take my own personal experience with this. With the APFT or either with the ACFT, I've never went to the gym, and still today never went to the gym with ACFT.
So you don't need equipment.
So that's the point I'm making. You don't need equipment. I know everybody's physical fitness is different, but if the difference between the APFT and ACFT, APFT, you can go out a week or two, a month, and prepare for the APFT, and you may not, score real high, but you're able to pass it. with the Army Combat Fitness Test, you got to be doing something on a consistent basis. And so for me, what I do is I go run first. I get my body fatigue and muscles fatigue, and then I'll start doing all the other exercise along with that. And that's been pretty successful for myself. A couple of weeks ago, I was out in Mississippi with a whole bunch of other command sergeant majors and command chiefs from the Air Force. We even had the command chiefs from the Air National Guard doing the ACFT out there. And I'm nearly 58 years old, 243 pounds, and I still maintain my 1 minute 35 seconds in the sprint drag carry. And so again, you can do it. It's here to stay, but you got to be training for it. You just can't not do anything. But it all goes back to a normal physical fitness routine and proper dieting. And that's the key. You have to have proper dieting along with your physical fitness routine. And then the other question, the other half of the question?
I believe the other half of that question, well, they took it off my screen, Sergeant Major. And
Okay.
Your excellent answer. Maybe, what was the other half of that question? Let's go back to it just real quick. And there it is. And is there any indications that from the outcome of the assessment done on body fat?
Body fat, yes.
Yep.
So not yet. We're still utilizing the current body fat composition. But again, I've never met the height and weight standard. I've always been taped. I was taped last week, and I'll just say, hey, come tape these muscles. So, but again, if you are got a great physical fitness program and you proper dieting, you shouldn't have any issues with the weight itself.
Meeting the standards.
Meeting the standards.
So the
That's
bottom
correct.
line, Sergeant Major, you got to do it.
You just got to do it. You got to get out
gotta
there and
do
do it. Yes.
You gotta
And it
get out
doesn't
there and
take
do it.
much. It doesn't
It's
take much.
not going to come easy.
And so the whole point, but we talking about recruiting. Our soldiers coming in today, I mean, they love to test. That's all they know. And so with that motivation that's coming in with our new recruits, that's even making it even bigger and better for stuff. So again, we have adjusted the leg tuck. Now you have an option for the plank itself. But either way, it's testing your core strength, and we just got to do it because again, we always talk about, I go out and talk to soldiers and say, the Army is modernizing. So when you hear the Army is modernizing, what that means to you? And people always saying it's our major equipment, facilities, technologies, but nobody really ever say the Army modernized the soldier, because the Army has modernized the soldier, because the same physical fitness requirement that reside years ago is not the same physical requirements of the soldier today and in the future. This is a very physical organization that you have some kind of physical fitness to yourself, regardless of your job, your MOS. Because again, if I'm on the battlefield, if I'm in training and I get hurt, I expect somebody to pack my 243-pound body off into safety, and I hope they would expect me to do the same thing for them too. And it requires some physical fitness.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about readiness.
All about readiness, yes.
Sergeant Major, going out to our next question. I believe it's from GIIB. But Sergeant Major Sampa, they say, good afternoon. This is a compliment to the recruiting question. How's retention going in the Army National Guard?
So retention is great. Like I said earlier in my comments today, that we retain quite a bit of soldiers in our formation today. I contributed to that being a great organization, but also contributed that to a lot of our citizen soldiers lost their civilian employment. And so being in the Guard provided them additional employment, income for their families, in addition to maintaining health insurance for their family as we go through this pandemic itself. So retention has been quite well in the Guard. And again, I contribute that to just being a great organization, serving our communities, serving our nation. And when the Army calls, we're there.
Thanks, Sergeant. Our next comment is from Troy W. Command Sergeant Major Sampa, you've done some incredible and remarkable things during your tenure as the Guard CSM. If you had to pick one thing that you regret, what would it be? And how did you get to overcome it? And then lastly, he says, what would you tell a young trooper who is struggling with regret?
So come think about regret. There's nothing really I regret. this has been an awesome experience for in being the 12th Command Sergeant Major Army
And
National
that's a
Guard.
pretty good thing, having not had to regret anything.
Yeah, I really can't think right off the top of my head. It's something I just totally regretted. Because again, when I first came into in this position, Dan was then the Sergeant Major of the Army at the time. He pulled me into his fold, on his team and his squad. Now SMA Grinston has done the same thing, and now he being the Sergeant Major of the Army. And then all the folks that have supported me in this organization, because again, my whole intent was always, it's about the organization. It's not about me. It's about moving the organization forward, being fair to everybody, providing those opportunities for everybody. And how can we do that was my main focus. So that's why I don't think really, I can't think of a regret right off the top of my head that I can think of.
Well, more importantly, Sergeant Major, he does mention something I think that our audience would like to hear. Is if you have a soldier that's struggling with it, how would they deal with it?
So if there's a soldier out there and you regret that you did something, use that as a teaching point not to do it again, one, but also find out what you can do to make it better and instill that trust in whatever that is that you regret that you've done. But own up to that accountability, because again, I think that's where a lot of folks have issues with regret is, let's own up to that accountability that I did something. And then once you recognize that, you can get through that and move on. Because I always say, if you keep looking back, how can you look forward? Absolutely. And so it's done. Hold yourself accountable for whatever it is, go through it. And once you get through it, it'll be over and you can continue to move on, because life move on and you can't stay stuck in that moment of regret. So just own up to whatever that is, find out what you'll do different, and use it as a teaching tool, and then move on, make things better.
Excellent advice, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major, back to our virtual audience, Tony T. Very good question, that one that we all struggle with. He says, Sergeant Major Sampa, with time being the National Guard's biggest resource, or how is the National Guard getting after all the training and readiness requirements? I think what he's saying is we all compete for time. How is the Guard completing all their tasks in the amount of time that they have?
So, time is always our enemy in the Guard itself, because we have 39 days that we officially train, meaning those are the 2 days during a month and the 15 days. But of course, with us having other requirements, nobody is really utilizing those 39 days, especially leaders itself. And so what has been the success of the Guard is that we never allow the organization, the unit, to fail. And so that's the selfless service of the men and women in the Army National Guard. They understand the requirement and they do whatever it takes to get it done. And a lot of times these men and women are doing it in their own personal time, because it's not about them. It's about their service to the organization, service to their state and nation. And so they just get it done. And so there's many ways that people are actually getting it done. There's no particular way, but I think at the end of the day, the common denominator is that people that's in the organization, the leadership in the organization, the soldiers in the organization said, I'm not going to let any mission fail. I'm going to do whatever it takes for the Guard to be successful. And that's how they're getting it done.
That's a great thing about our soldiers. Time, the amount we have is never going to change, but they always figure out how to accomplish it.
Always figure out how to do it, yes.
Sergeant Major, we're getting a little short on time, and I want to thank our audience today. You have been fabulous with the amount of questions you've been sending in, and excellent questions. And as I mentioned, we got more questions than we had time for today, but we're going to make sure Sergeant Major Sampa gets each and every one of those, so your voice will be heard. Sergeant Major, before we close out, it's come to my understanding that you're coming to the end of your assignment as the 12th Command Sergeant Major of the Army National Guard. And I believe the time when we all don't want to happen, but to take the uniform off and go home. What's next for Sergeant Major Sampa?
Well, you got a job here at AUSA?
We might be hiring.
So no, what's next for me is that, again, you're absolutely right. And I tell this to a lot of the sergeant majors and master sergeant, first sergeant, is that when you've reached that particular point in your career, you got to have an exit plan. And it's not about what you're going to do next.
Because
For
100% of us are leaving.
That's correct. We all leave.
We all
Yeah,
leave.
some people last longer than others, but the uniform is temporary. It is not, you can civilian job where you can stay however long you want to stay. No, we all going to be in this uniform temporary. And so I prepared for that. And so I'll transition back to Texas and complete my op processing out of the Army completely. Right now, I have a tentative retirement date of April 30th of 2022. And what's unique about that is that on that particular day, 35 years ago, I was raising my hand in the military entry processing station in Houston, Texas, joining the Army National Guard, 35 to that date. So my entry date into the Army and my retirement date will be the same day, 35 years in one day. And so I'll transition out and then go back to the Highway Patrol. And soon, I don't have a timetable just on that, but I'll have nearly 30 years with the Highway Patrol as well, too. Yeah. And so my time in that uniform is getting short as well, too. So we'll see what happens after that. But there's different opportunities that come about, and we'll see what goes on. But for me, the main thing is what next is really to maintain my health, and that's what I'm committed to, regardless of what I do, is maintaining my health so I can move about in my retirement years.
Well, we want to thank you, Sergeant Major. Incredible service, not just as a soldier, but also as a peace officer in the great state of Texas, Sergeant Major. Your legacy is going to be a tough act to follow, and we appreciate all you've done for all of our great soldiers across not just the National Guard, but the Army Guard, the Army Reserve, and the Active Army too, because you inspire and motivate, and your presence is something special everywhere you go. Thank you.
Well, it's been a great opportunity for me, and I just want to take time out to thank AUSA, yourself, General Ham when he was here, and now General Retired Brown, now he here, and all of the men and women of the Army National Guard, starting with Lieutenant General Retired Cadby, who selected me to be for this position. I served under him. I served under General Hokerson, who is now our chief of the National Guard Bureau, and then now Lieutenant General John Jensen as the Director of Army National Guard. So I've had some outstanding leadership generals to serve with in this position, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity, but really thankful for the families and the soldiers of the Army National Guard, because without your support, without you being there, I could not do what I need to do here in this position. And also, I like to thank my family, because what many folks don't know, I'm here in D.C. by myself, and my spouse and the rest of the family is still in Houston, Texas. So being away from home for the last nearly 4 years has been different for them as well too. So they're all excited about me coming home as well too. So I don't know. We've been when I first came here, someone told my wife that, oh, you all are geo-bacheloring, and my wife said, well, I don't know about Sergeant Major Sampa, the word bachelor and Command Sergeant Major Sampa has nothing in common. So we've been geo-dispersed for the last almost 4 years now. So again, thank each and every one of you all for your awesome support, and whoever follows behind me, I ask that you provide that same level of support to them to keep this organization moving forward and continue to be the great organization that it has been for 384 years plus that we're moving into as Army National Guard, the oldest military service of our nation.
Well, thank you so much. And they will have big shoes to fill. Thank you, Commander Sergeant Major Sampa. Your conversations have always been insightful, and thanks for sharing your story with our audience. Good luck to you in your retirement. And on behalf of all of us, thank you for tremendous service as both a soldier and a Texas Highway Patrol officer. Ladies and gentlemen, before we close, I'd want to inform our audience of some upcoming events. You can find details about these and our other events on our website at ausa.org. Coming up soon, November 16th at 1400 is our Thought Leaders with James Kitfield, author in the Company of Heroes, the inspiring stories of Medal of Honor recipients from America's longest war in Afghanistan and Iraq. Next up after that is November 23rd at 1400, another Thought Leaders on military and family policy with Patty Barron, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Military, Community, and Family Policy. AUSA Army Medical Hot Topic is coming up December 7th in person here at the General Gordon R. Sullivan Convention Center and Event Center at the AUSA headquarters in Arlington. And then lastly, ladies and gentlemen, mark your calendars for the 2022 AUSA Global Force Symposium and Exposition in person at the Von Braun Center, Huntsville, Alabama, from March 29th through the 31st. To register for these and all AUSA events, please visit our website at ausa.org. Again, thanks to our sponsor, USAA, for their support of this edition of the Noon Report. And finally, we want to thank all of you who are AUSA members. Ladies and gentlemen, membership matters. And through your membership, you support soldiers, Army civilians, and families, and help us put on programs like today's Noon Report. Take another look at our robust membership. You'll find that membership pays for itself if you just use your benefits. Join AUSA or renew your membership at ausa.org. Thank you again for your attendance, and have a great day. And ladies and gentlemen, happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans out there. And there's something we all can do to make a difference tomorrow. Thank you, veterans.